What if I told you that dwelling underneath the surface of every city, there's a magical fat man using drugs to turn the local junkie population into super zombies? And also, there's secret fight clubs where the super zombies watch men fight with giant pizza cutters. You'd probably believe me just because, I'm such a credible source. But what I'm actually talking about is a movie that my friend showed me in college. I think it was after he had seen iMockery talk about it. A movie called Street Zombies, aka Ozone. At the time, I found it completely unwatchable, not even really enjoyable in a so bad that it's good kind of way. But looking at it again, I've developed an appreciation for how much they were able to do with such a small budget. So for today's episode, let's take a look at this J.R. Bookwalter classic. This video is sponsored by Shudder. Shudder is my favorite streaming service. It's basically the Netflix of horror, and you can get it on all your favorite devices for $5.99 a month or $56.99 a year. This month from the Shudder catalog, I'm going to recommend The Untold Story, perhaps the single most infamous film to ever come out of Hong Kong, and one that I might cover on the channel eventually. Right now, it's Shudder's Summer of Chills, with new movies every week all summer long, including these upcoming exclusives. The Boy Behind the Door, in which kidnapped best friends search for a way out of their worst nightmare. Jacob's Wife, starring reanimators Barbara Crampton as a woman who gets bitten by a vampire. And Shudder original series Slasher, Flesh and Blood, starring one of my favorite directors, David Cronenberg. Get started streaming the best horror, thriller, and supernatural content. Shudder's expertly curated collection includes must-see titles like Vicious Fun, The Mortuary Collection, and PG, Psycho Gorman, plus all the best horror documentaries and the hit Creepshow TV series from executive producer Greg Nicotero of The Walking Dead. To try Shudder free for 30 days, just go to shudder.com and use code WANG. We see a junkie dressed like a lost member of Faith No More sneaking through a neon alleyway. He encounters a man who looks like if instead of de-aging Alfred Molina in the new Spider-Man movie, they use this technology to give him super herpes. Doc gives our man a new drug he cooked up called Ozone. Despite this being a brand new, never-before-seen drug, our junkie is such a pro that he just instinctively knows that you gotta cook it on a spoon and inject it, and the whole time, you got this soundtrack coming in with fanciful harp flourishes that make it sound like the spoon and the syringe are about to come to life and start singing a song like Beauty and the Beast. But it does not go that well for him. It's okay, man, we'll get you some Narcan and you'll be good as new. And now we meet our star, Detective Eddie Boone, and his partner Mike, who I can't help but feel bears a striking resemblance to the dearly departed Total Biscuit, R.I.P. They're staking out what appears to be a meeting of the local college anime club. On one hand, these guys are trying to keep a low profile, dressed in fedoras and trench coats like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when they don't want people to know that they're turtles. But then you got this one in a hot pink scoop neck tee, which is not ideal for stealth. After the deal is made, Eddie and Mike bust in, guns ablaze with GeoCities style animated GIF explosions. The dealer gets taken down, but in his dying act, he injects Eddie with ozone. Meanwhile, Mike heads into the Argento-colored trap house.
Say you Squeaky.
Squeegee? Is this a part of the Super Hornio Brothers cinematic universe? Zombie Lou Ferrigno bumps into Mike, then pursues him with his best Conor McGregor walk, distracting him from the zombie that ultimately chops his hand off with a big giant piece of broken glass. Mike holes up in a room where he tries to stop the bleeding, but ultimately, the paper-thin door breaks faster than a horse girl's hymen. My friend, consider yourself street zombied. Back at home, Eddie has some hand problems of his own with some kind of Photoshop 3.0 style filter before turning into the honeycomb monster and then shriveling up. Oh, it was all just a dream. Or was it? We catch a passing glimpse of a fat titty rubber monster that, based on the thrown evil after, we can assume is up to no good. Eddie returns to the trap house to search for Mike, but finds nothing but Mike's missing finger, and after staring at the finger for a while, he remembers that severed fingers are scary. So he makes a run for it, right into a zombie who says,
"You smell like a brother."
Now, when you say you smell like a brother, do you mean like a sibling? Or
one of us.
As cheesy as it is right now for the zombies to be mobbing Eddie going, "One of us." Ironically, this is better storytelling than you'd see in a lot of otherwise more capably made films. A lot of writers would be tempted to sit there and explain to us the mechanism through which Ozone turns these people into zombies, and Eddie got injected so now he's doomed to become one of them. But this simple encounter gives us all of that information without needing to explain it to us. And it sets up everything else that's going to happen in this movie. Eddie finesses his way into Mike's apartment to search for clues.
Asshole. Dog dick.
And then he gets a message on Mike's Batman phone.
Hi, Eddie, you yellow rat bastard. You looking for Mike, Eddie? You know he's one of us now, don't ya?
Hey, he's sleeping with the fishes, see? On his way out, Eddie gets stopped by a crooked cop who tries to inject him with even more ozone. After a bit of a struggle though, Eddie manages to knock the cop on the ground and then... I don't think he's waking up, guys. It's kind of a stressful situation, so you know Eddie needs to take a load off, so he goes to a bar where he's served a shot by the swole version of Gary Vaynerchuk.
I ate shit for 13 years.
Achy Breaky Song is playing in the background, but the lyrics are different from Weird Al's Achy Breaky Song. So I guess this is some kind of parody of a parody. I can't seem to find this version of the song either, so I guess we got a case of Street Zombies Lost Media. After witnessing a chick in the bathroom shooting up some ozone, the bar full of patrons with Cocker Spaniel style mullets grab him to bring him down to Gary V's secret fight club. And now it's time for my favorite scene in this movie. The duel with giant pizza cutters on sticks. Eat your heart out, Nick Gage. What I love so much about this is that you can clearly see that these saw blades are made out of cardboard. Got a little silver spray painted on them, and one of them even it's a little bent in the middle. So Eddie fights this giant Abobo-esque leather daddy with the dreamiest eyes you've ever seen. Is that mascara? And there's a hell of a paper cut. And the duel ends with not that deep of a slice across the chest. Eddie's declared the champion, and Gary V leads his zombie goons in showing their true power. While they're powering up, Eddie makes a break for it, but we got a snitch. And he winds up in a hallway where a broad named Justine approaches him. And she goes down on him. Not like down on his fucking sausage, but I mean his ozone holes. And he likes it. And she likes it. I feel like I saw a manga like this once on 4chan back in the day. And now you're about to see where this movie's entire budget went. They get covered in a layer of Nickelodeon gack before going fully globular and shit. That's why you don't do premarital armhole sucking. But this is legitimately a really good, genuinely revolting effect that seems really out of place for a movie where not 5 minutes ago we saw cardboard saw blades. Oh yeah, and then they have themselves an alien smallpox fuck. And he wakes up. Was this all a dream too? His hand is sticky. Are you not even gonna give it a sniff? So Eddie takes a walk of shame through an alley where he gets confronted by a group of guys who are very, very obviously inspired by Cenobites, and I'm being very generous when I say inspired.
Won't you stay and play with us for a while?
Although I have to say they do have a touch of Shadowrun Street Samurai energy. The scene doesn't seem to serve much of a purpose besides just reiterating the fact that Eddie is going to transform. Basically, I picture the director being like, hey, how about we make a scene where there's a bunch of cool guys? And you know what? I respect that. Like if I ever made a movie, chances are like a good percentage of that movie would just be guys being cool. And then after this, I'm once again reminded of Shadowrun as emaciated Tom Cruise with the mullet is working at a morgue and opens up one of the boxes. Come on, bro, there's a neon light in there. A neon light in a movie like this means trouble. And there's the trouble. Anime Club Fedora Man is back to life and issues a death to this man that would make Beware Children at Play proud. And then the theme from the Andy Griffith Show works its way in. And what appears to be a young Jim Cornette gets shot in the belly. Come on, Jim, you know that this overselling is exposing the business. So if you were to die, and then you came back to life, what would be the first thing that you would do? Go back and get your fedora, of course. And then pledge your fealty to King Mabel, who sends his goons after Squeaky, the informant from the beginning of the movie. Eddie sees a bunch of hobos huddled around a trash fire, hates Justine, and she turns into dusty old bones.
Full of green dust.
Meanwhile, the extreme guys from Harold and Kumar are headed to take out the informant in a car that's not moving. It's just very obviously being shook by people out of frame. Eddie gets the squeaky first though, where he finds him hopped up on Ozone, and he's scared that he's gonna transform into a zombie. But before he can complete his transformation, the extreme guys get there, place a gun to the back of his head, and then they shoot the back of his head, causing the bullet to somehow enter the front of his chest. Now you're thinking with portals. For some reason, one of the zombies shoots another one of the zombies, giving Eddie a chance to escape, leading to an extremely long chase scene. And also, the zombie that got shot in the head walks headfirst into a metal pole because getting shot in the head could be kind of disorienting. After giving the zombies a good chase, they finally catch up to him after he runs into a vestibule and gets stuck there. Sorry, Eddie, you didn't talk to the right NPC to unlock that part of the game yet. The goons bring him to Chris Christie, who reveals that he was in fact Herpes Dr. Octopus from the beginning of the movie, aka drug dealer Sam DiBartolo. And you see, this is a big twist because we are highly invested in this character that we saw for 30 seconds. Sam gives Eddie the whole next stage of human evolution, Wesker type spiel, and then a guard takes Eddie away to a cell, and the guy playing the guard, let me tell you, he has been training for this role his entire life.
Are you playing with me? Are you playing with me?
Like, you could just picture him standing in a mirror doing Robert De Niro Taxi Driver all day long. And then one jail cell over, it's Mike, who's dribbling milk all over himself and demands Eddie kills him so that he doesn't transform. But Eddie, being a shitty friend, just leaves him before running into Justine, right in the middle of her giving birth to their child.
You came.
Yeah, that's how we got in this situation. Probably not gonna want to breastfeed. So Eddie runs from his responsibilities and once again meets Sam DiBartolo for a final confrontation.
And you'll have to shoot me.
It was never going to be that easy, of course. The hole closes up, and the undead drug dealer named Richter shows up. But after Eddie takes advantage of another distraction, Sam fires off some unidentifiable orders.
You can't leave until his transformation is complete.
So Eddie escapes into a conveniently labeled ammo room, which is standard for most apartment complexes, and thankfully the super is Wile E. Coyote, and he finds himself a box of bright red cartoon dynamite, which he doesn't use to blow up his pursuers. Instead, he uses it to blow the door open on them with force. But Richter's not done yet. He transforms into Charlene from Dinosaurs, but even this new skull shape is no match for a door being closed forcefully. Eddie returns to obese Dr. Claw's lair, where he proceeds to cut his fat belly open in order to prove how invincible he is, which is a golden opportunity for Eddie to shove some of the leftover cartoon dynamite into the hole in his belly. This is what you get for being a show-off. Eddie makes his escape, and the movie ends just the way it began, with the most glorious display of GeoCities-style explosions ever put to film. Back to the police department. Eddie is being debriefed and learns that he's being blamed for a killing spree with 35 victims. And then, the interrogator is revealed to be a street zombie. Kind of a missed opportunity to do the freeze frame tape delay thing that I love so much, but what are you gonna do? And now, the thing I like about this ending, it's very open to interpretation. Perhaps we can take everything literally, and now the zombies are running the police department. But then we have to consider a few things. At the beginning of the movie, we see the guy inject himself with the ozone, but he doesn't turn into a zombie, he just explodes and dies. We never see a single zombie in this movie until after Eddie has been injected with the drug. After being injected with the drug, Eddie sees a lot of things that are clearly spelled out to us as being hallucinations. But that doesn't mean that the other things he sees aren't hallucinations as well. It's quite possible that Eddie really did go on a drug-induced killing spree, thinking that the people he's killing are monsters. And I really appreciate the fact that the movie didn't hold our hands for this and just kind of left it a little open-ended. So all in all, I remembered this movie just not being that enjoyable back in the day. There were a few things that I found funny, but it didn't really sustain the entire length of it. Like, I pretty much just wanted to do this video because I remembered the pizza cutter thing, and I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty funny, let me do this movie. But looking back on it, it's really well made for what is, as I understand it, a $3,500 budget. Like, that's nothing for a movie like this. And with that tiny budget, J.R. Bookwalter managed to build a really unique, interesting world. He's still quite active, so maybe one day we'll get to see him revisit it. Although really, the more I think about this movie, the more I feel like it would have been incredible as a PlayStation 1 era survival horror game. Like, there's a universe out there where we're currently playing Ozone 8 for PlayStation 5. But anyway, that's all for now. If you like this video, check out my video about the Lost Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. I'm out.